Mary Wollstonecraft by Jake Sims. Before we start, does anyone know who the first famous woman to stand up for women's rights was? The answer to that question is Mary Wollstonecraft. She was the first woman to become famous for standing up for women's rights. The Enlightenment was a time of great ideas around the 1700s. These ideas were encouraged by scientific methods in the early 1500s. However, during the Middle Ages, the church had most of the power. Very few people questioned the church. Those who did had very harsh punishments. However, in the late Middle Ages, the church started to lose its spark. People such as Martin Luther started to question the church and its teachings. Science was then encouraged, and this started the Enlightenment. Scientific methods and ideas boosted society in psychology, mathematics, medicine, and more. The Enlightenment also helped women win their rights. These ideas and thoughts of the Enlightenment impacted many centuries to come. Some may argue it still impacts today. These groundbreaking ideas served for many platforms for men and women alike to share their points of views and ideas with others without getting judged. Mary Wollstonecraft was born in London, in Spitzevals. She lived from 1759 to 1797. She was an author and wrote about how women should have rights. She gained these ideas from her childhood because she had an abusive father. She started to learn to write well while she was working for a company called Joseph Johnson. Mary Wollstonecraft had many good ideas. She mainly focused on how women should have rights. She wanted a world where women could express themselves and have the same education as men. She did not like how women were rejected from society and thrown out of making very important decisions. In 1792, she wrote a book called Vindication of the Rights of Women. She was greatly angered that many men of that time were thinking and spending most of their time on reason instead of thinking about common day practices of how women were treated. This passage says, "The great misfortune is this, that they both inquire manners before morals, and knowledge of life before they have from reflection any antiquitance with the grand ideal outline of human nature. Idleness has produced a mixture of gallantry and despotism into society, which leads the very men who are the slaves of their mistresses to tyrannize over their sisters, wives, and daughters. This is the only thing keeping them in hand and file. It is true. Strengthen the female mind by enlarging it, and there will be an end to blind obedience. But as blind obedience is never sought for power, tyrants and sexuals are in the right when they endeavor to keep women in the dark, because the former want slaves, the latter a plaything." By Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of the Rights of Women. Mary Wollstonecraft's ideas paved a new way for society. Many men and women started to think about how and what would happen if women had rights. Some men even decided to start fighting and vote for women to have rights. You can see that even in today, that women have rights. Mary Wollstonecraft gave the idea of treating women like men, giving them the same rights and teachings. And because of that, many women in the world today can do the same things as men. For example, they can vote, get their own land, and get a real education. Because of her ideas, she has majorly impacted society today and how women are viewed by most of society. And these are my sources.